Here I am again in my little outdoor office. Yeah, I just like calling this my outdoor office. No, seriously, I'm back along the Dodder. Up the Dodder this time, strangely enough. I'm forever speaking about down the Dodder. But the reason I'm here today is because in a short while I'm expecting the author of the book Down the Dodder, which is the definitive book of the river, Christopher Moriarty, to come along and join me. So I'm going to let Christopher talk about water, rivers, in fact anything he'd like to talk about. I'll also mention his latest book, which came out a couple of years ago, The Liffey, History and Heritage. And let's see what he has to say, because I'm sure he's going to be here very shortly. And right on cue, here's Christopher. And I see he has both books in his hand. Good morning, Christopher. How are you?
Good morning, Michael.
Listen, we're going to have a little bit of fun here this morning. Welcome to my outdoor office. How do you like it?
Very, very well furnished and finished. I like this.
I'm curious, Christopher, as to how the book came about, where you got the idea from, and where you took the title from.
Well, I began on a Saturday afternoon in 1936, a home birth in a new house just a little way up the hill from the Dodder. And I was taken for walks for years, and it was always down the Dodder, because you couldn't go up the Dodder there was a wall and it was all blocked off. So we went down the Dodder. Quite a long time later, late 1970s, a wonderful friend of mine, the editor of the magazine Ireland of the Welcomes, Elizabeth Healy, asked me could I make a contribution to a book about the Liffey. And that led me to meet Seamus Cashman, the publisher who ran the Wolfhound Press. Elizabeth showed me a list of the contents of the book of what we came to call the Book of the Liffey, and it ended up with me writing about half of it. But it also led to my meeting with Seamus. And the Book of the Liffey was published in 1980, and I thought, well, that was fun, why not write a book about the Dodder? And so Down the Dodder was conceived. I brought the idea along to Seamus, and Seamus said great, and we enlisted a bit of help from my son Rory, who was a graphic artist and drew a lot of maps for me, and I set out to explore the Dodder from source to sea, and the result finally was the book Down the Dodder.
Okay, Christopher, so now you have it in your hand there, and I know the reason the title was Down the Dodder, because, as you know, I grew up just across the road there, and we couldn't access this field that you and I are actually sitting in at the moment. This was inaccessible unless, and I think you've told me this story before, unless we cheated and came under the bridge. That was the only way we could access this field. Am I correct?
You are right. There was a little stone ledge by the side of the river, and if you walked carefully you could go under the bridge and into what was a very large field of cattle pasture at the time, and basically nobody could go there, so I used to bring my dog there and exercise.
So you and I both always went down the Dodder, except for those odd sneaky moments under the bridge. But the book that you're holding in your hand now, that's one of the original copies of the book, and that's now out of print. Is there any possibility that will be reprinted?
Well, I think it can be seen online.
Yeah, I know there's a digital version of it, but is the print version never going to be available again?
Print version, I think probably not.
Yeah, okay.
No great hopes of doing that. It would have to be rewritten, and I suppose one of my biggest problems is that I have too many books to write at the moment.
Now, Christopher, I'm going to ask you another question, and this time far more general. But if you were to say, let's assume you were talking to a group of school children, I want you to tell those children why rivers and water generally are important. Tell me about water and its importance.
Well, basically, you can't. Nobody can live without water in some form or another. We need it to drink, even though we mostly disguise it these days in tea or beer or goodness knows what. Water is absolutely essential. All of the civilizations of the world have developed on riverbanks, and there is no exception to this. Rivers also keep a situation clean by carrying away the waste. And then in more recent times, in the past few centuries, rivers have been the source of power so that industry can develop. And so the river is basic to life. Rivers so important that some of the names of the Irish rivers can't be translated. You can't translate the name Dodder. You can't translate the Liffey, and you can't translate the Shannon. There are rivers like there's a lot of Owen Duffs around the country. They're Irish language dark water, but the anonymous rivers have names that were bestowed on them before the Celtic civilization came to Ireland. That's a good deal more than 2,000 years, and they've held on to their names. And the reason they held on to their names was they were so important to the communities. Now, I mentioned drinking, I mentioned removal of waste, I mentioned industry. That's what makes a river, even a small river like the Dodder, have so much of interest. And what I found out in the Dodder, first of all, you have where the source of the river, where it starts off, always in a bit of wilderness, fairly inaccessible, only known to people who walk. But beautiful because it's wild and because it has wild flowers and really no human influence at all. Then you move down a bit. In the case of the Dodder, you have the Glenasmole Valley, where some bright engineers in the 19th century realised you put a dam there and you will be able to provide enough water for the people of Dublin. And so that was created in late in the 19th century. But before that, anywhere there was a bit of a rock outcrop and a rapid in the river, it was possible to build a dam, and that gave you a high level of water. You brought that downstream and you ran a water mill from that, so you had industry developing right, left and centre. And then you have just the sheer attraction of the river, somewhere nice to walk by, and that meant that people came to build houses, riverside houses.
I think that the Dodder is probably unique in that respect. You're talking about people just walking by and enjoying the ambience. Is there another river in the country, anywhere in the country, that's as much a city river as the Dodder? Or can you think of one?
Oh, well, we have the Tolka. You only have to go across the Liffey and you get the Tolka. On the larger scale, Limerick is developed around the Shannon and City Waterford. The rivers are essential, but and where you have rivers, you have tributaries, so you do have smaller rivers. One of the books I probably won't get to write. I did seriously think of writing one about the Tulka and another about the Dargle, but I probably won't get around to it.
Is that because you're a Southsider?
Well, of course that has a bit of it. But plenty of people find it impossible to think of the other side of the Liffey.
Yeah, I think you and I are biased, both being Southsiders. Down the Dodder, Christopher, is generally considered the definitive book of the river. But you've also been involved in a couple of books on the Liffey. You've already mentioned the one that got you involved and probably started you off in writing the Dodder book by meeting the people that you spoke of. But in recent times, just a couple of years ago, you wrote your latest book, The Liffey, History and Heritage, which you have in your hand there. How did that come about?
That began with a baptism by total immersion. At the age of 3, I was paddling in the upper reaches of the Liffey at Ballysmutton with my pinkeen net, and I tripped and was totally immersed in the Liffey. I never got over it. I was taken out of the Liffey very quickly by my startled parents, but as it happened, my father, just a few years after that, built a holiday home near Blessington, overlooking the Blessington Lakes, which had just been created by damming. And then I went to college. I'd always had an obsession with fresh water since that total immersion. Trinity College, I was beside the Liffey. The Liffey actually was part of the Trinity property for a while. Then I got a job on the north side, and so I crossed the Liffey every day to work. But I also had the good fortune to get a studentship to study the Liffey, and that led to my career in fisheries. So the Liffey has been an obsession, a greater part of my life. As I said, with the help of a few others, at the inspiration of a few others, we wrote a book of the Liffey. But that was, after it was there, it was going for 20 or 30 years. An awful lot happened around the Liffey, and I thought it was time to write a new book. And there were lots and lots of things about the Liffey that weren't in the original book, and so I got to work on a new one.
Interesting. Funny enough, I did a recent episode of Wildlife Wednesday from Ballysmutton Bridge, or what used to be called Ballysmutton Bridge. It's now called the Kieran Jones Bridge. I don't know if you know that story, do you?
I do indeed.
Sadly, yeah.
Yes, that was a tragedy. Kieran Jones was a policeman who lived near there. The bridge was carried away by a flood, and Kieran wasn't on duty but went to help the traffic and was carried away and drowned himself. So the bridge was rebuilt and named in his honour.
Well, thanks again for watching Wildlife Wednesday, folks. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and if you did, I'd be grateful if you'd give it a like and subscribe to my channel. And when you do, don't forget to ring the bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. If you'd like to buy a copy of my safari book From Sunrise to Sunset, just follow the link below the video. Till next week, stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands and wear a mask where necessary, while continuing to maintain social distancing, because we're not quite out of the woods yet. Even me. Take care, folks. Bye.